You look at the Congressional Budget Office analysis, the effective tax rate was higher then than it is now.
And
we
also,
had Bush cut top tax rates very dramatically, and we had the weakest expansion of
the
any since the
problem.
end of World War II.
Let me interrupt.
There's been enough real-world experience of your line of thinking that I think we need to pronounce it a disaster.
And no, it's not a disaster. And the problem is, when you raise taxes on a businessman, on an entrepreneur, the money that you're taking away and giving to government isn't money that he was going to spend. It's money that he was going to invest.
It doesn't depend what level you're talking about. Like, if you're a multi-billionaire, it's quite a different thing than if you're a medium-sized businessman.
But even if you're a billionaire, any money that the government takes from a wealthy person, it's just going to spend it. The wealthy person is going to invest it to grow the economy, to produce goods and services, to provide employment opportunity. A socialist model of just taking money from the wealthy and redistributing it to the rest of the economy is going to impoverish the economy. You're not going to grow an economy by taking money away from the people who are going to grow it, who are going to make the investments, who are going to employ people. Sending money to Washington is a complete waste. They're just going to blow it on politically popular spending programs, but it's not going to improve the economy.
The country that we're borrowing the most from, and the country with the most rapid growth rates, perhaps in all of economic history, is China. China has a very large state sector. The state thoroughly dominates the economy, and they've had massive infrastructure spending. The last couple of years, they've built thousands of miles of high-speed rail. We can't even build any right now. And they have succeeded in producing extremely dramatic rates of economic growth.
And the reason for
any American business person would look at China and say this is a nightmare of state regulation and state domination of the economy. But it's been very successful.
Are you investing a lot of money in Chinese companies?
No.
I am. I'm doing a lot of investment. I'm doing banking activity for Chinese companies. I'm raising money for Chinese companies. And I can tell you that there is more economic freedom in China than there is here. China is succeeding because they're more capitalistic than America. I don't care what...
But there is a bigger stimulus program in terms of per capita, my understanding.
No.
And the Chinese Prime Minister, who was just here, interviewed on Fareed Zakaria's show, was actually praising the Obama stimulus plan. And these are the guys who hold more American T-bonds and...
Yeah, the Chinese foreign reserves now are closing on $3 trillion. I mean, the Chinese government is stimulating our economy more than their own, but it's stimulating it the wrong way. They're allowing our government to go deeper into debt by buying our bonds. They're allowing Americans to buy things they can't afford by artificially suppressing their currency. But at some point, the Chinese are going to come to their senses. They're going to stop buying our treasuries. They're going to let their currency rise, and that is going to dramatically benefit the Chinese people, because all of a sudden their products are going to become more affordable to them, and the Chinese will buy their own products, and Americans are going to have to go without these products because we won't be able to afford to import them, and we lack the ability to produce them ourselves because the government has taxed and regulated our factories out of business.
No, the government has not taxed and regulated factories out of business.
Sure they have.
It's that the investors want to go to cheaper environments. They're trying to save money on wages. It's got nothing to do with taxes or regulations. It's all about the wage differential between Michigan and China, or Michigan and Mexico.
Well, again, a real-world example. I'm moving some of my business offshore. It's not because of wages. I couldn't care less. I'm trying to reduce my regulatory burden and my taxes.
Okay, I want to shift gears a bit. There's a point where government stimulus doesn't change the basic scenario, which is if wages are too low, not enough people have well-paid jobs, and they have to borrow money. You can keep spending government money. How does that ever change the scenario that there isn't a real demand in the economy versus just the government one way or the other? Even if it taxed the money to get the stimulus, it's still not changing.
You're right about that. I'd say two things.
How does it change the basic demand scenario?
Well, first of all, I'd say two things. One is I would not want to talk just in terms of stimulus. The stimulus is just a short-term cyclical thing, but I think we also need real serious long-term infrastructure spending, real serious spending on energy research and development, ways of creating environmentally clean technologies, and that's not going to happen without large amounts of government spending and government coercion.
Where's the government going to get the money?
The government has the money.
Well, they don't have nothing. They have a printing press.
Well, where is the government going to get the money?
It can tax.
For who?
People like you.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. Are you in the top 2 percentile?
Yes.
Okay, people like you.
So I think that kind of spending, the spending on really long-term infrastructure, high-speed rail, but also the
like
research and development, clean energy. Well, we could use a few 5-year plans.
But the Chinese have 5 years. The Chinese have such things. They go crazy.
Yeah. Let's not copy what they do wrong. Let's copy what they do right.
But to get to your other point, we do need to get wages up. I mean, one of the reasons that we had such rampant borrowing by the household sector, by the general public over the last couple of decades, is because wages have gone nowhere. And in order to maintain some semblance of a middle-class standard of living and some degree of social respectability, people have borrowed.
That's not sustainable. Do you employ anybody?
Very, very part-time, very small.
Why don't you raise their pay?
I pay one person very, very generously.
I can tell you, look, I employ 125 people or so. The only way for wages to rise is if your employees become more productive. I mean, you can't just get higher wages.
Productivity has skyrocketed for the last couple of decades, and wages have gone nowhere.
Oh, come on, you know that's the case.
No, a worker has to be more productive.
This is absolutely rock-solid fact.
So
productivity is up dramatically. If you graph
no, it's not.
you'd have...
So how do you think wages go up? How do you think someone gets...
No, but hang on. This is a point of fact which we can clarify. My understanding is productivity practically doubled from the 1990s, where wages more or less were stable.
Well, that's the way the government
is that
keeps
true or
track
not?
Of productivity. No, I don't think we've become more productive. Look at our trade deficit. If we were more productive, but if you look at the individual at a micro level, if I'm going to employ somebody, right, and I'm going to hire somebody, and I'm going to pay them, let's say, $30,000 a year, and they want a raise to $40,000. Well, they have to be able to provide to me more output, more productivity, so I can afford to pay them more.
I don't know the brokerage business, but I do know in manufacturing that the United States is still the biggest manufacturing country in the world. It still surpasses China. Number two.
Well, I don't know what we're manufacturing because we have we are not
many things.
Huh?
Many things, but the point is that far less people are manufacturing almost the same amount of goods as they did 10 years ago. I mean, as I understand it, these are pretty straightforward.
I think they're manufacturing a lot less.
Absolutely orthodox truth. There's just no denying the fact that productivity in manufacturing, but also some of the service sector, has increased enormously.
Well,
some of it is the way
they, because you know how come the productivity is higher? Because they outsource all their production to other countries, and that's helping the productive figures because they don't have American.
The people at the Bureau of Labor Statistics know what they're doing. They every effort to account for that
They don't know what
properly.
they're doing. They don't do that. If you fire an American worker